Let me start with the truth. You spent 12, maybe 16, maybe 20 years in school. You learned formulas, dates, definitions, you memorized what to think. But nobody taught you how to live. Nobody handed you a class called How to Handle Rejection. Nobody gave you a textbook on how to control your mind. Nobody tested you on how to build real confidence. And yet, these are the exams that decide your life. Today, we talk about the lessons that truly matter, the lessons you didn't learn in school, but must learn now. The first key point is that your mind is your real degree, not the paper framed on your wall, not the GPA printed on a transcript. Your real qualification for life is the way you think when no one is watching. It is the story you tell yourself after you fail. It is the voice that speaks when you are alone at night, replaying conversations, doubting decisions, questioning your worth. That voice can either build you quietly or break you slowly. School measured how well you could remember information. Life measures how well you manage your thoughts. And if you never learn to guide your mind, it will guide you toward fear, comparison, and hesitation without you even noticing. Think about it. Two people lose the same job on the same day. One says, "This is proof I'm not good enough." The other says, "This is redirection." Same event, same pain, different mindset. One sinks, the other searches. The difference is not intelligence, it is interpretation. Your mind is like a lens. If the lens is cracked by insecurity, everything looks broken. If the lens is clear, even challenges look like opportunities. Nobody taught you how to clean that lens. Nobody told you that you must guard what enters your mind like you guard your home. Yet you allow negative comments, old failures, and other people's opinions to walk in freely and rearrange your confidence. Your mind is also a garden. Whatever you water will grow. If you water comparison, you grow envy. If you water gratitude, you grow strength. I once met a man who worked 2 jobs while studying at night. He was not the smartest in his class. He struggled with exams. But every morning, before leaving his small apartment, he would say one sentence to himself: "I am becoming better than yesterday." That sentence was not magic. It did not change his grades overnight, but it changed his direction. Over time, he stopped seeing himself as behind and started seeing himself as in progress. Years later, he built a small business that now supports his entire family. What changed? Not his IQ, his internal dialogue. You must understand this deeply. Your mind believes what you repeat. If you keep saying, "I'm bad at this," your brain will quietly agree and reduce your effort. If you keep saying, "I'm learning this," your brain stays open. The words you whisper to yourself become instructions. And most people are giving themselves the wrong instructions every single day. They criticize themselves more harshly than any teacher ever did. Heavy, tiring, limiting. Your mind can also be your greatest weapon in moments of pressure. When something goes wrong, your first thought decides your next action. If your first thought is panic, your next action will be rushed. If your first thought is steady, your next action will be strategic. Emotional storms begin in the mind before they show on your face. And control does not mean suppressing feelings. It means observing them without surrendering to them. It means saying, "I feel afraid, but I will not let fear drive." This is a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained through reflection, through silence, through choosing better thoughts even when worse ones feel easier. Be careful what you consume daily. The shows you watch, the conversations you entertain, the content you scroll through for hours. Your mind does not filter as strictly as you think. It absorbs, it stores, it connects patterns. If you constantly feed it negativity, outrage, and comparison, do not be surprised when it produces anxiety and dissatisfaction. But when you feed it meaningful books, uplifting conversations, And moments of quiet thinking, something shifts. You start responding instead of reacting. You start choosing instead of drifting. The quality of your thoughts improves because the quality of your input improves. And here is something powerful. Your mind does not care about your past nearly as much as you do. It responds to what you focus on now. You may have failed before, you may have been underestimated, you may have doubted yourself for years. But the moment you decide to think differently, your brain begins forming new patterns. Slowly, quietly, repeatedly. You are not stuck with the mindset you developed at 16. You are not limited to the beliefs someone spoke over you when you were young. Every day, you are enrolling in the school of your own thinking. And every thought you choose is either earning you strength or reinforcing your limits. The second key point is that failure is not a grade, it is feedback. From childhood, you were trained to fear the red mark. A low score felt like a label. A failed test felt like a verdict on your intelligence. You walked home carrying not just a paper, but a silent shame. And without realizing it, you connected mistakes with identity. I failed slowly became I am a failure. That belief does not disappear when school ends. It follows you into job, interviews, relationships, business ideas, creative dreams. One rejection email can reopen the memory of that red mark. One setback can make you question your entire ability. But life does not operate on permanent grades. It operates on adjustments. Think of a GPS. When you take a wrong turn, it does not insult you. It recalculates. Calmly, quietly. It simply shows you a new route. Failure works the same way. It is information, it is direction correction. It tells you what did not work, not who you are. But many people treat a wrong turn as the end of the journey. They stop the car, they sit in frustration, they decide they are bad at driving, all because they misunderstood the signal. What if every failure was just life saying, try a different approach? I once knew a young woman who dreamed of opening a bakery. She saved money for years. She rented a small space. She worked day and night perfecting her recipes. But in the first 6 months, almost no one walked in. Bills piled up. Friends quietly suggested she be realistic. One evening, exhausted and defeated, she almost closed the shop for good. But instead of quitting, she started asking different questions. She asked customers for honest feedback. She realized her location was hidden and her branding unclear. It was not her baking that failed. It was her visibility. She adjusted. She moved to a busier street. She shared her story online. Today, people line up outside her store. The early failure did not define her. It refined her. Failure has a way of exposing weak foundations, and that exposure feels painful because it touches your pride. But pride blocks growth. When something collapses, you can either protect your ego or improve your structure. Many people choose ego. They blame the market, they blame timing, they blame others. Very few sit quietly and ask, what is this teaching me? That question change everything. Because once you start looking for lessons instead of excuses, failure becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. There is also another side to this. Sometimes you fail even after giving your best. You prepared, you worked hard, you showed up, and still it did not work out. That kind of failure hurts differently. It shakes your confidence. It makes you wonder if effort even matters. But not every failure is about doing something wrong. Some failures are about building resilience. Like lifting weights, resistance strengthens you. The weight does not hate you, it is shaping you. In the same way, life sometimes adds pressure not to crush you, but to expand your capacity. You must separate outcome from identity. Losing a deal does not make you incompetent. Ending a relationship does not make you unlovable. Not reaching a goal does not make you incapable. These are events, not definitions. Imagine a scientist in a lab running experiments. Most experiments do not succeed on the first attempt. But the scientist does not cry over each result. They observe, adjust, repeat. Your life deserves the same patience. Instead of saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" ask, "What pattern can I improve?" And understand this deeply. Fear of failure often causes more damage than failure itself. When you are afraid to fail, you play small. You avoid risks. You silence ideas. You stay in comfort zones that slowly shrink your confidence. But when you accept that failure is part of growth, you become brave. You apply for roles you once thought were out of reach. You start projects without waiting for perfect timing. You speak up without rehearsing every word. Because you know that even if it does not work, you will gain insight. And insight is power. Every successful person you admire has a private history of setbacks you will never see. Behind every polished victory is a call, action of quiet losses. The difference is not that they avoided failure. The difference is that they used it. They treated it like raw material. They shaped it into wisdom. They allowed it to sharpen their judgment instead of dulling their spirit. And that choice, to learn instead of label, is available to you every single time something does not go your way. The third key point is that no one is coming to save you. At first, that sentence may feel heavy, it may sound harsh, but if you sit with it long enough, it becomes liberating. For most of your early life, someone structured your world. Parents reminded you, teachers instructed you, systems guided you, bells rang to tell you when to move, deadlines were set for you, even consequences were managed by someone else. But adulthood removes the training wheels quietly. There is no announcement, no ceremony. One day you wake up and realize the decisions are yours, the discipline is yours, the rescue plan is yours. And that realization can either scare you or awaken you. Many people live in quiet expectation. They expect the right person to discover their talent. They expect a lucky break. They expect someone to notice their effort and open a door. They expect motivation to strike like lightning before they begin. And while they wait, time moves. Days turn into months, months into years. The dream stays in their mind, polished and perfect, but untouched by action. Waiting feels safe because it protects you from responsibility. If you are waiting, you are not accountable. But growth begins the moment you stop expecting rescue and start building momentum. I once met a man who always talked about writing a book. He had ideas, outlines, even chapter titles. For 10 years, he said, "When things settle down, I'll start." He was waiting for free time, for quiet mornings, for the perfect mental space. But life rarely hands you perfect conditions. One day, after a health scare, he realized something simple. No one was going to create space for him. He began waking up 1 hour earlier, just 1 hour. He wrote slowly, some days poorly, some days with doubt, but he kept going. A year later, he held his finished manuscript, not because someone pushed him, not because circumstances aligned, but because he decided to move without being carried. Ownership changes your posture. When you accept that no one is coming to fix your habits, you stop blaming your schedule. When you accept that no one is coming to heal your mindset, you stop blaming your past. Responsibility is not about self-criticism. It is about self-direction. It is about saying, "This is my life, my patterns, my outcomes." And that statement is powerful because if it is yours, it is also changeable. If you caused it, you can adjust it. If you built it, you can rebuild it. There is also a quiet strength that comes from self-reliance. When you solve your own problems, even small ones, you grow trust in yourself. Fixing your own mistakes, managing your own time, learning a new skill without being forced. These actions send a message to your brain: I can handle this. And confidence is not built from praise, it is built from proof. Every time you take initiative, you gather evidence that you are capable. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs constant guidance. You start seeing yourself as someone who creates direction. This does not mean you reject help. It does not mean you isolate yourself. It means you do not depend on others to start your journey. Support is valuable. Mentors are powerful. Community is important. But they amplify effort. They do not replace it. Imagine trying to push a car that is in neutral. Others can help you move it faster. But if the car is parked with the brakes on, no amount of pushing will help. Your action is the engine. Your decision is the ignition. There will be mornings when you do not feel inspired, evenings when you feel behind, moments when doubt whispers that maybe you are not ready. In those moments, it is tempting to wait for someone to reassure you, to validate you, to tell you what step to take next. But the deeper growth happens when you learn to guide yourself, when you learn to sit with uncertainty and still move, when you learn to answer your own questions through effort instead of avoidance. That is maturity. That is strength. That is the shift from dependency to ownership. And slowly, something remarkable happens. The more you stop waiting to be saved, the more powerful you feel. The more you act without external pressure, the more disciplined you become. You realize that the hero you were expecting was you all along. Not a perfect version, not a fearless version, but a willing version. A version ready to take small steps without applause. A version ready to make decisions without guarantees. A version ready to build instead of wait. The fourth key point is that your network shapes your future. Look closely at your life and you will notice something subtle but powerful. The people around you are constantly influencing your standards. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, daily, through conversations, habits, expectations. If you spend time with people who complain about everything, you slowly start seeing the world through a lens of problems. If you spend time with people who take action, who talk about ideas, who challenge themselves, something inside you begins to stretch. Human beings are mirrors. We reflect what we repeatedly face. And many people underestimate how much their environment is shaping their mindset. Imagine placing a small plant in two different rooms. One room has sunlight, fresh air, and space. The other is dark, crowded, and neglected. The plant does not argue. It simply responds. It grows according to its environment. You are no different. You may have talent. You may have ambition. But if you are constantly surrounded by negativity, gossip, low standards, and fear-driven thinking, your growth becomes limited. Not because you are incapable, but because your environment is shrinking your vision. I once met a young man who dreamed of becoming a software developer. He had natural ability. He learned quickly. But his closest friends mocked his ambition. They called him too serious. They teased him for staying home to study. Slowly, he began skipping practice sessions just to fit in. His skills plateaued. His confidence dropped. One day, he attended a local tech meetup and met people who spoke passionately about coding, innovation, and growth. Their energy was different. Their conversations were different. He felt uncomfortable at first, but he also felt inspired. Over time, he spent more hours with that new circle. His habits changed. His focus sharpened. Within 2 years, he landed a job he once thought was out of reach. His ability did not suddenly increase. His environment did. Energy transfers faster than advice. You may sit in a room where no one explicitly tells you to give up. But if everyone around you is settling, avoiding risk, and criticizing those who try, you absorb that mindset. You begin to lower your own expectations quietly. You tell yourself you are being realistic, but often you are simply adapting to the comfort level of your circle. On the other hand, when you are around people who are disciplined, who wake up early, who take responsibility, who talk about solutions instead of problems, your internal standard rises automatically. You do not need motivation speeches. The atmosphere itself pulls you upward. This does not mean you must abandon old friends or judge people harshly. It means you must be intentional. Ask yourself simple questions. After spending time with someone, do you feel energized or drained? Do you feel clearer or more confused? Do you feel challenged or comfortable in a way that makes you stagnant? Your emotional state after interactions is a clue. Growth-friendly relationships push you gently but firmly. They celebrate your wins, but they also call out your excuses. They remind you of your potential when you forget it. There is also something deeper happening. Your network influences your belief system. If everyone around you believes that success is rare and reserved for other people, you unconsciously accept that belief. But if you are surrounded by people who see opportunity everywhere, who believe improvement is possible, who share stories of persistence, your mind expands. Possibility becomes normal. What once seemed extraordinary begins to feel achievable. Exposure changes expectation, and expectation shapes effort. You do not need a large network. You need the right one. Even one conversation with a person who thinks differently can shift your direction. Even one mentor who sees your potential can change your trajectory. Even one friend who holds you accountable can elevate your discipline. Your circle does not have to be perfect, but it must be purposeful. Because whether you notice it or not, you are becoming more like the people you spend the most time with. Their habits seep into yours. Their fears can become yours. Their courage can also become yours. And that quiet transformation happens day by day, word by word, choice by choice. The fifth key point is that emotional control is a superpower. Not loud control, not forced silence. Real control, the kind that shows up when your heart is racing, when someone disrespects you, when plans fall apart without warning. Most people believe strength is about speaking first, reacting fast, defending quickly. But true strength is often quiet. It is the ability to pause when everything inside you wants to explode. It is the discipline to choose your response instead of surrendering to your impulse. And this is not something school prepared you for. You were taught how to solve equations, not how to manage anger. You were taught how to write essays, not how to sit with disappointment. Emotions are powerful. They are not enemies, they are signals. Anger can signal injustice. Fear can signal risk. Sadness can signal loss. But a signal is not a command. If a fire alarm rings, you do not panic and burn the building down. You investigate. In the same way, when emotion rises, you must observe before acting. Most regrets in life are not born from lack of intelligence. They are born from unmanaged emotion. Words spoken in anger, decisions made in fear, promises broken in frustration. A few seconds of lost control can create years of consequence. I once met a manager who led a small team in a busy office. Deadlines were tight. Pressure was constant. One afternoon, a major mistake cost the company thousands of dollars. Everyone expected him to shout. The room was silent. You could feel the tension in the air. But instead of reacting, he took a deep breath and said, "Let's understand what happened." His calmness shifted the entire energy of the room. People felt safe enough to admit errors honestly. Solutions were found quickly. Later, he told me something simple. If I lose control, I lose authority. His emotional discipline earned him more respect than any title could. When you cannot control your emotions, other people control you easily. A single insult can ruin your day. One negative comment can destroy your confidence. One unexpected change can throw off your entire mood. That is not power, that is vulnerability, emotion. Al control does not mean you feel less. It means you are not owned by what you feel. Imagine being the driver of your life, but every time an emotion appears, you hand it the steering wheel. Anger drives fast, fear slams the brakes, excitement takes risky turns. You end up exhausted because you are not directing your own journey. There is also a quiet advantage in staying steady. When others are overwhelmed, the calm person becomes the anchor. In crisis, people look for stability. In conflict, they look for clarity. If you can remain composed while others react, you gain perspective. And perspective allows better decisions. I knew a young athlete who lost an important game because of one mistake. In the locker room, some players blamed each other loudly, but he sat quietly, replaying the moment in his mind, not to punish himself, to understand it. The next season, he faced a similar situation. This time, he stayed calm. He adjusted. He performed better. His improvement did not come from talent alone. It came from learning to stay steady under pressure. Emotional control also protects your relationships. Words said in anger can cut deeper than intended. Silence chosen out of pride can build invisible walls. Many friendships and partnerships do not end because of one big event. They erode because of repeated emotional reactions. If you can learn to pause before responding, to listen before defending, to breathe before speaking, you change the quality of your connections. You stop escalating problems. You start resolving them. And that maturity builds trust. Training emotional control requires awareness. You must notice your triggers. Notice the situations that make your voice rise, your patience thin, your thoughts spiral. Instead of judging yourself for feeling, study yourself. Ask, why did this affect me so strongly? Often, the reaction is not about the present moment, NT. It is about old wounds, unmet expectations, hidden insecurities. When you understand your patterns, you weaken their power. You begin to create space between stimulus and response. And in that space lies your freedom. Over time, emotional discipline transforms how you see yourself. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstances. You feel capable, grounded, strong in a quiet way. Challenges still come, people still disappoint, plans still fail, but your internal world remains stable. You become less reactive, more intentional, less impulsive, more thoughtful. And in a world where many are driven by immediate emotion, the person who can remain centered carries an uncommon advantage. The sixth key point is that consistency beats talent. Talent is impressive in the beginning. It shines fast, it gets attention, people notice it, praise it, talk about it. But consistency is quiet. It does not demand applause. It shows up early, works late, repeats the basics, and improves slowly. And in the long run, consistency almost always wins. You may not be the smartest person in the room. You may not have the fastest start. But if you can keep going when others slow down, if you can keep practicing when others lose interest, you create an advantage that talent alone cannot compete with. Think about learning a musical instrument. The person with natural rhythm might pick it up quickly. In the first few weeks, they sound amazing. Everyone claps. But if they stop practicing because it feels easy, their growth stops too. Meanwhile, another person struggles with the basics. Their fingers hurt, their timing is off, but they practice every day. 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour. Months later, something shifts. Their skill deepens, their control improves, the gap closes. Not because they were gifted, but because they refused to disappear. Consistency is not about intensity, it is about repetition. Many people wait for big bursts of motivation. They want to feel inspired before they begin. They rely on mood, but mood is unstable. It changes with sleep, weather, stress, and opinion. If your effort depends on how you feel, your progress will always be unpredictable. Discipline is different. Discipline says, I will do this whether I feel like it or not. That simple decision removes negotiation. It removes excuses. It turns growth into a habit instead of a hope. I once met a man who wanted to lose weight and improve his health. For years, he tried extreme diets, intense workouts, short-term challenges. Each time he started strong and ended tired. One day he changed his approach. Instead of dramatic changes, he chose small, consistent actions. A daily walk, slightly better meals, regular sleep, no big announcements, no social media posts, just steady effort. After a year, the transformation was clear, not just in his body but in his confidence. He stopped chasing quick results and started trusting small, repeated choices. That trust changed everything. Consistency also builds identity. When you show up daily for your craft, your goal, your responsibility, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop saying, I'm trying. You start saying, this is who I am. A writer who writes every day becomes a writer, not because of one brilliant paragraph, but because of accumulated pages. An athlete who trains regularly becomes strong, not because of one perfect session, but because of years of repetition. Identity grows from action, not intention. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when effort feels unnoticed, when results seem slow. This is where most people quit. They mistake slow growth for no growth. But consistency works like water shaping stone. One drop does not seem powerful, but over time the surface changes. The shape transforms. RMS, the impact becomes undeniable. You may not see dramatic improvement every week, but if you track your effort over months and years, the difference will surprise you. It is also important to understand that consistency protects you from emotional extremes. When you rely on sudden bursts of energy, you experience sudden crashes. But steady effort creates balance. You do not need to feel extraordinary every day. You only need to do what is required that day. Some days will be strong, some will be average, a few will be weak. But if you keep moving, the direction remains forward. And direction matters more than speed. Talent may open doors, it may create opportunities. But consistency keeps you inside the room. It earns trust. It builds reputation. It proves reliability. People respect those who show up again and again. And more importantly, you begin to respect yourself. Because every time you keep your commitment, even when it is inconvenient, you strengthen your self-belief. You become someone who follows through. Someone who does not fade when excitement fades. Someone who keeps building even when no one is watching. The seventh key point is that happiness is an inside job. From a young age, you were quietly taught that happiness lives somewhere outside you, in achievements, in applause, in money, in the next milestone. When I get this job, I'll be happy. When I buy this house, I'll relax. When people finally recognize me, I'll feel enough. So you chase, you run, you collect moments like trophies, believing each one will complete you. And for a while it feels good, but the feeling fades. The excitement settles. The mind moves the finish line again, and you are left wondering why satisfaction slips through your fingers like water. The truth is uncomfortable but freeing. External success can decorate your life, but it cannot define your peace. I once spoke to a man who built a multi-million-dollar company. From the outside, he had everything: cars, travel, influence. But he admitted something quietly. "I win deals all day," he said, "but I lose sleep at night." His calendar was full, but his heart felt empty. He had mastered strategy, but ignored self-awareness. It took him years to realize that achievement without alignment creates noise, not joy. When your outer world grows faster than your inner world, imbalance begins. Happiness is not excitement, it is steadiness. It is waking up without a heavy heart. It is looking at your life and knowing you are not pretending. Many people smile publicly and struggle privately because they built a life to impress others, not to express themselves. They followed paths that looked successful but felt hollow, and slowly they begin to feel disconnected from their own choices. When your actions do not match your values, even success feels tiring. Think of your inner world as a home. If the foundation is cracked, if your self-worth depends on validation, if your peace depends on comparison, no amount of decoration can make it stable. You can paint the walls, you can add beautiful furniture, but the structure will always feel fragile. True happiness begins when you repair the foundation, when you learn to respect yourself without constant approval, when you stop measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. There was a young woman who constantly compared herself to her friends on social media. Promotions, engagements, vacations. It seemed like everyone was ahead. She worked harder, pushed more, tried to keep up. But the more she compared, the more anxious she became. One day, she decided to step back. She limited what she consumed. She began journaling daily, asking herself simple questions. What do I actually enjoy? What matters to me? Slowly, she realized she had been chasing goals she did not even want. When she started building a life based on her own values, her anxiety reduced. Not because her circumstances changed dramatically, but because her focus did. Happiness also grows in gratitude, not forced positivity, not denial of problems, but conscious awareness of what is working. Your mind naturally scans for threats. It remembers criticism longer than compliments. If you do not train it, it will highlight what is missing. But when you pause and notice what is present, health, relationships, small progress, you shift your emotional baseline. Gratitude does not ignore ambition. It stabilizes it. It allows you to pursue growth without feeling incomplete. And perhaps the most important part is self-acceptance. Many people are harsh with themselves. They replay mistakes, they criticize their flaws, they carry guilt for years. But peace does not grow in self-rejection. It grows in understanding, in saying, I am imperfect, but I am improving. When you treat yourself with patience, your internal world becomes softer, more supportive. You stop being your own enemy. You start becoming your own ally. Happiness is not a destination waiting at the end of achievement. It is a daily practice of alignment, awareness, and acceptance. It is built in quiet decisions, what you focus on, how you speak to yourself, what you value, what you release. And when you begin to cultivate it internally, external success becomes a bonus, not a necessity. And now, as you stand at this quiet turning point, understand something simple but powerful. You were educated for a career, but life is asking you for awareness. It is asking you to manage your mind when doubt appears, to learn from failure instead of wearing it, to take responsibility instead of waiting, to choose your environment wisely, to steady your emotions when pressure rises, to show up consistently when excitement fades, and to build peace from the inside, not borrow it from applause. None of these lessons come with certificates. No one hands you a medal for mastering your thoughts. No report card arrives when you control your reactions. No public announcement is made when you quietly choose discipline over comfort. But your life changes, slowly, internally, permanently. The real transformation does not look dramatic. It looks steady. It looks like you pausing before reacting. It looks like you trying again after failing. It looks like you waking up and doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching. It looks like you choosing peace over proving a point. And one day, you will notice something different. The same challenges that once shook you will feel manageable. The same criticism that once hurt deeply will feel lighter. The same fears that once stopped you will no longer control you. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. You will begin to trust yourself, not because you are perfect, but because you know you can handle imperfection. That is growth. You do not need to change your entire life overnight. You only need to think a little more clearly, act a little more intentionally, reflect a little more honestly. Each small shift builds a stronger foundation. Each thoughtful decision shapes a steadier future. And as you move forward from here, remember this quietly. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not defined by what you did not learn. You are capable of learning now. Your mind can be trained, your habits can be refined, your environment can be chosen, your emotions can be guided, your effort can be consistent, your peace can be cultivated. Life is not testing what you memorized, it is revealing who you are becoming. So walk back into your world with awareness. Handle your next challenge with composure. Face your next failure with curiosity. Make your next decision with ownership. And over time, without noise, without announcement, without spectacle, you will build a life that feels steady on the inside, no matter what happens on the outside.